An important aspect of becoming a gun owner is learning how to disassemble your firearm and how to clean it. When I first purchased my Glock 19, I actually had gone in and got this Pro Shot products. It was an all-in-one. So basically clean everything from a 22 all the way up to a 12 gauge shotgun. It does come with these instructions. Definitely a great product. They have a great YouTube as well. So I'll just kind of basically be going through and cleaning my Glock 27. I actually just went to the range today. I had just installed this front sight and also this O-ring, which definitely was a nice improvement. I did notice that with this, I was shooting a little bit lower, so got to get used to this. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and remove the magazine. Make sure our firearm is not loaded. Next thing on the Glock, you can go ahead and remove the slide. You're going to pull the trigger with your hand. Just roughly go back like this. Bring down that front part and it will slide off. So here's our frame. Here's going to be our slide. So here's our spring, our barrel. And I didn't put too many rounds through it today, so it's not too dirty. I personally like to clean my weapons every time after I get home from the range. So one of the first things I like to use is this one-step CLP. So right here, it's going to remove any lead, powder, any fouling basically that happens while you're at the shooting range. It's a one easy step, so fairly easy stuff. Usually what I like to do is with my barrel, as you can kind of see, it's kind of dirty right there. I'll just take a few drips of this, just kind of let it sit in there. Next thing I'll do is the outside of the barrel. I like to use these swabs right here, which make it really easy. Just go in there, kind of work around it. Got these, I believe, on Amazon. Usually my go-to for inexpensive swabs. At the end of the day, don't want to pay too much money for these as they're going to end up in the trash. You could opt to use some gloves. I personally just kind of get my hands dirty. It's okay. Just wash them. Make sure you use de-lead soap with cold water to make sure that you don't get any on your hands. Make sure you remove it all, especially if you're going to eat some food or anything like that. So usually I'll just kind of go through it really quickly. And then on this side, I'll just let it sit there while I clean all the other parts of the gun, so that way it just kind of marinates in there. Next thing I'm going to do is just take the spring here. Usually this doesn't require too much oil. It doesn't generally get too dirty. Just give it a little wipe down. If you really do want to get into there, if it is a little bit dirty, you can get the Q-tip and just kind of run it like this. As you spin this around, this kind of goes through the spring. The little coil goes all through it. Just continue down the whole way. And Q-tips are definitely very inexpensive. Look at that right there. So it does get dirty, but don't need to really lube this up too much. So that should be good. Next thing we're gonna do is gonna take this slide. This right here, when I was first getting into buying my gun, I did see lots of videos on the way people would clean their guns, and to be honest, it's all over the place. Some people just take this product right here, the CLP, and just spray it all over. For some of the research that I made and discovered, basically you don't really want too much of that CLP going in here, especially into your firing pin. You don't want to get it all gunked up. As you can see, it's kind of hard. I'm not sure if you can really see on there, but you see those little metal shavings here. So you don't want those to basically get stuck in here, and you don't want to overwhelm it with too much oil. As you can see, it's getting pretty dirty here. So just kind of basically go everywhere, going through here. Another thing we're going to want to do is actually pop out this light pipe from our high vis. So let's see if I could just pop it out right here with this really quickly. There we go. Let's pop that out, put it to the side. So this one's pretty dirty. We're gonna get a new one. Go ahead and just put a couple of drops on here. This is really great, especially with the way this has a needle, because it's really easy to get to specific areas. And again, this is just the way I like to clean my guns. Everybody's a little bit different, but I personally like keeping them very nice and clean when they go into my safe. That way they're reliable. Although being a Glock, when I first purchased my Glock 19, the salesman did tell me that you could basically go thousands of rounds shooting the Glock before you have to clean it. You know, very reliable gun. But in my case, I have OCD, so I just like to really clean my guns really well. So just go over here, go on this side here. And usually I'll just kind of let them sit for a little bit. Next thing I like to do also is just with our Q-tip, put a little dab on here. You got to be careful sometimes with the little hairs on your patches or your Q-tips. They might get caught in here, so you just want to be aware of that. You just kind of give it a couple slides like that right there. Then we'll do the same on the other side. Give it a couple of drops here. Try to get out all the metal shavings that we can. Go inside here. Then I usually try to get one to go around the firing pin. So this is very delicate. You definitely don't want to get a lot of CLP in here. You want to have this dry as possible. What happens is that if you leave it too oily or too much of the grease and stuff like that, what happens is that it accumulates dirt and all the gunk just gets really stuck on there. Another thing I like to do is just bring this in. If you really need a deep cleaning, you could remove this back portion and then get into the firing pin, the ejector. For the most part, I'll probably do that every 6 months or so, or just depends on how many rounds. This is my Glock 27. I probably roughly put about 500 rounds through it, so not too much. So once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and put that to the side. Again, I'm going to take another one of these swabs here. Go ahead and just put a couple of dabs here. Then I'm going to go over the inside here. Just go all over it. For the most part, it's not too dirty. I had just cleaned it. Today, again, I maybe put only about, I want to say 50 rounds, not too much. Only had about an hour or so at the range, and I was mainly focusing on zeroing in my red dot on my Ruger PC carbine. But with these, it makes it really easy to reach, especially down here in the magazine goes. Another thing as well, this would generally be popping out every time I go to the range. So what I did is to remedy that, I got a little bit of this grip, and on one of the sides I put it on there, kind of forced it in. Now it's just really stuck in there, which is really good. I'm hoping that that'll work and not cause it to pop out anymore. It's just the recoil. This is a 40 caliber, 40 S&W, so definitely does have a little bit more of a recoil. Just want to go in here, all the edges, make sure you clean it up. They also do sell these brushes, which are great to get into the areas that you really can't get into to release any of the fouling, any dirt, any buildup right here. Get some of these other ones go right here. Remember, where the most contact happens is where a lot of friction goes, the metal to metal. That's where we're going to want to have it generally oiled up. Also, when you do purchase your Glock, it does come with the owner's manual, which will tell you how to properly go about cleaning it and where it needs to be oiled. So usually that's what I do. I like to just kind of roughly go through every part. Then I'll go back to the barrel. What we're going to want to do is we're going to get this tool right here, so that way we can go ahead and put some patches. So this is our spear tip. I believe most Glocks come with one already. These patches here, I think I got about 1,000 of them for $8 or so on Amazon. I usually like to get 2 of these. Just bend it right here and put it through. And then at this point, just get some of the CLP. I'm pretty generous with it. This little bottle right here, I mean, I've had it for over 6 months and it's still going. I purchased a backup one already for $5, so not too expensive. And now what we want to do is, here's our barrel. We're going to go ahead and run this through. I usually like to spin it as I'm going here, so we could see that all the fouling right here is getting cleaned up. Usually this is the area that gets a little bit dirtier, since this is where a lot of the powder is released. So just run it through a couple times. All right. Then we'll take 2 fresh ones. Do the same. And then run it through. The goal is to make sure that your patches come out white on the other side after we clean it here. So it's looking pretty good. Again, it's not too dirty. I had just cleaned it, put about roughly 50 rounds, just one case of 40 S&W, 180 grain Blazer rounds, which are made by CCI. Personally, one of my favorite rounds to work with at the target, when I'm doing target practice at the range. You can see the inside of this is still fairly clean, so pretty frugal here. I'll try to reuse it. Just going to go over the barrel again once more, try to get into the creases, really get that nice and cleaned up. Right here, just kind of put my finger in here a little bit. Look at that right there. It's all coming off, so nice and clean. All right, it's looking good. So one thing you're gonna want to do as well is take your bore light and then just run it through, so that way you could kind of check it out and see if everything's looking clean. I know it's kind of difficult to see right here on the camera, but just looking around it, make sure there's no cracks, make sure everything's good. Overall, this one looks really nice, so pretty happy with that. We're good here. Next thing I'm going to do is continue just wiping off all the excess. When you let the CLP sit on your actual firearm, it just, look at that, all this stuff is coming off. There's been times where I'll clean it, and then maybe tomorrow I'll disassemble it and go wipe it again, and there'll just be a lot more of the powder that's released. As it sits there and eats away at it, it just really improves it. Good quality. This stuff works great, really no complaints. As we can see right here, it's looking pretty clean, looks pretty good. Let me just get into these corners right here, this little area. Try to get any excess of any shavings of the metal from the bullets. There we go, looking pretty good. All right, this one, let's take a patch and just try to take off any excess. Another thing too, with my flashlight here, I usually like to put a dab of the CLP and just roughly go over this, because since it is in the front, it does get quite a bit of fouling as well, so you want to make sure to take care of that. This Streamlight product, I'm extremely happy with it. I mean, it just makes it look so nice and sleek, and it's very easy to reach to when you turn it on right there. So I actually just ordered some backup batteries. Even when I'm training, I turn on the flashlight, turn it off every single time. These do great with the recoil. They just great flashlights overall. I would highly recommend it. And you can see it's just super flush, fits really nice. So you could also just kind of go over here, go over the trigger. Again, not overly dirty. Didn't put too many rounds in this. Usually just take this, try to wipe off all the excess of any of the CLP. Take another one of these. Just kind of go through here, wipe it down. I like to lift this up as well and just try to get in there. Okay, looking good so far. All right, cool. All right, so the next thing that I like to do is we're gonna have to go ahead and put some gun oil. This Lucas product is great. I got this on sale, I think for like $6, free shipping. So we're gonna go ahead, and usually it says not to overdo it. I like to put quite a bit, and if there's too much, I'll just go in and wipe it off the following day or before I hit the range. But again, this is what gets the most friction. It's gonna get the metal to metal, so I'll just let that sit there. Also with the Glocks, I believe it's on this area. You want to put a little drop right here. Just put a little bit right here on the rail. All right, it's looking good. Another thing on the slide right here, you could see right there, that's where it's getting a lot of the friction. Also on the side right here. So what I like to do is just take some of this right here, just put a bit, put it on the side. Just kind of put it like that so it's not too thick. There we go. And also with this excess right here, I'll just kind of use this to wipe off any excess gun oil. It's looking good. Another thing also, this does get quite a bit of friction, so we'll go ahead and put some like that. Put some on the barrel. Just leave it lightly oiled right here. All right, looks good. So now we can continue to building back our weapon right here. So again, this is a Glock 27, so there we go. That just slides in right there. Go ahead and take our spring. Put that right there. When these are brand new, these are a pain, honestly, but after you put a couple rounds through it, it does all right. So we're looking good. Everything looks okay. So now we're going to go ahead and line this up and just rack this back. Oh yeah, big difference. A lot easier to rack than when I barely got it. All right, so that's looking good. Here's our magazine. I have 4 magazines that I'm currently breaking in, so this one isn't too dirty. Just kind of roughly use one of these swabs that still have quite a bit of the CLP. Just go like that. What's really great about these Glock magazines is they have the metal around here, so probably some of the best magazines you'll get. Very reliable, very great. I always try to go with OEM. I tend to have a little bit of issues with, you know, off-brand names. You might save a couple bucks, but in the long run, you could get these right here, I think, on sale for like $24 or so. So again, these are only for 9. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is a 10 round right here. I think this one cost me about 30 bucks. Definitely worth it. So just kind of clean that up. Looking good. One thing you want to be careful when you're using this is to try not to get it onto all of this rubber texture adhesive grip, because sometimes it could eat away at the adhesive. So you want to be careful of that. So once we're done with this, just slide that in. Again, it is not loaded. So the next thing I'm going to do, which is pretty much almost getting close to the final step, this silicone cloth. This one's been used quite a bit. As you can see, definitely does get used. Again, I like to clean my guns as often as possible anytime I'm hitting the range. So just put a couple of dabs of this CLP here and just take my silicone. And this helps prevent any rust, gets rid of any fingerprints, and it just keeps your gun looking brand new. So just go all in these areas. Also this high vis that I just installed, I want to make sure it doesn't rust. So just treat it as any other piece of metal from your firearm. So you can see this one's leaving quite a bit of hairs right here, which is not appealing at all. But what I've learned to do is that after I use this, I will just go ahead and get a microfiber and then just kind of take all off of those little hairs that come from the silicone. And just, if there's any dirt or any fouling on the grip, just kind of clean that. Also go in here to your trigger, flashlight, make sure we get that. Get into these serrations over here. All right, it's looking really good. Okay, so one of the final things, I like to put that back. Also, you can see that right there, it looks shiny. It looks like I just put on some lotion, but that's from the silicone. So one thing I want to make sure is just wipe my hand really quickly and go ahead and get this light pipe. Go ahead and just wipe this down. This doesn't require any sort of CLP or anything like that. So I'm just kind of gently wipe it. We're good. Then we're going to go ahead and line this up. So as you can see right there, it has kind of like a little ball point at the end. That's the one where you get inserted this way. And then just put it all the way forward. And there we go. Just wipe it off. Move all of this out of the way. And you can see right there, looks like new again. Great condition, Very clean, ready to go. One last thing I like to do is just add maybe a little bit more oil here. Also, it's going in the safe, so it's going to be in there. Also, while it's back like this, you could kind of get into that spring right here. This is just something that I like to do. It's really hard to move that spring without the use of having it racked back, so on the slide. So just kind of go in there really quickly, get off any excess of this barrel, and then in there we're good. Also, another thing, this gets quite a bit of friction, so we'll just put another little drop of oil here, the CIP, rack it a couple of times, work that in, and then just wipe off the excess. And that's it. That's how you clean your Glock 27. That's how I like to clean it. Thank you for joining.